the way this system is supposed to work. And until the president realizes that he needs to understand the Constitution, understand the restraints on him and his authority, and talk openly with his military authorities about what is the right thing to do, and not fire them when he doesn't get the answer he likes.
I want to ask you about foreign policy. As a former Secretary of State, the Chinese government is under a lot of scrutiny for how it handled the coronavirus pandemic early on, as well as its recent anti-democratic crackdown in Hong Kong. 2 years ago, you said we shouldn't create a Cold War situation with the Chinese. Are we in one, do you think?
We're in a bad situation right now because we're fighting over things that I don't think we need to fight over. The Chinese did not do well at the very beginning of this virus crisis. But at the same time, it was our intelligence community that was telling the administration, telling the president, beginning in December through January, February, and March, that we had this. And the president wouldn't respond to it. They kept trying to see if there's somebody else to blame. And so in order to get out of this, we're not blaming the Chinese for everything. Our relationship with the Chinese during my time as chairman or my time as Secretary of State was a healthy one. When they did things we didn't like, we told them about it. But more often, we would speak to them as fellow individuals and a government that we could speak to. I did a lot with the Chinese, disagreed with them when they had to be disagreed with, but at the same time respected them and listened to what their point of view was then. And right now, we ought to be listening carefully to what they're doing in Hong Kong, and we should not take action that just infuriates the situation and makes the situation worse.
Let's continue to talk more broadly about the role of the United States in the world. The editorial board of the Financial Times, a leading newspaper in the UK, wrote an editorial titled "America's Battered Moral Standing," and they wrote in part, quote, "Donald Trump is handing the world's autocrats a propaganda coup. Never before has a U.S. president demonized, in blanket terms, those protesting against injustice. If China were to send its tanks into Hong Kong, the world listened to what the U.S. Senate thought." Do you agree that our moral standing as Americans is being battered because of the way, the attitude President Trump has, not only to our allies, but to citizens protesting peacefully?
Our moral standing has been demonized by what not only the world is thinking, but they're just looking at us. They're looking at these demonstrations. They see that these are demonstrations that are justified and not to be criticized. They see that George, as the president called him, was murdered. And the president comes out and says, well, George is looking down from heaven and blessing what I'm doing. How can you expect anybody to believe things like that? That's the kind of language we see coming from overseas. And the overseas clients that we have, our friends and some of our adversaries, looking at how we are taking care of our people. Are we insulting everybody? Are we going after immigrants? They don't understand this. I'm the son of immigrants. I wouldn't be here if my parents couldn't come here in banana boats in the 1920s. This is America. This is who we are. And the world doesn't understand.
President Trump said this week that it's common sense for Russia to be allowed to rejoin the G7 after Russia was expelled after it annexed Crimea in 2014. What do you think of that? Should Russia be allowed to rejoin the G7?
Let me answer it this way. Why is he making this decision all by himself at the same time that Russia has been listed as one of our four enemies that we have to be dealing with? In reality, they are not. They're not one of our four enemies. As one Israeli prime minister said to me in a very simple way, Colin, we've lost our enemies, now all we have are problems. We have problems. And so we have a situation where the Pentagon has identified four enemies: China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Not one of them is about to attack us right now. We're sending huge sums. We need to get to those problems in Afghanistan, Somalia, elsewhere, and start to help solve those. And so the world is listening, and what are they hearing? They're hearing this: we don't like immigrants. We don't want them in. Let's kick them out. We're hearing that we don't like so many of our ethnic people, the ethnic slices that America represents. We don't like that. And they speak out against it. It's our strength. It's been our strength for 200 years. And we ought to stick up for our immigration policies. We ought to stick up for our minorities. We ought to put more money into lower income classes of Americans. We need to get our kids educated, white and black, all of them. get educated like I was educated in the public school system of New York. And I'm now a graduate of a public college in New York, and have been rather successful with this public school education. That's the kind of education all of our young people should have, and it is a major priority in my lifetime and among my friends.
Last question for you, sir, and we really do appreciate your time today. There are a lot of independent voters out there, or moderates, Democrats and Republicans, who might be concerned that the Democratic Party is drifting too far to the left, and they hear your comments about President Trump. Why is it so important to you that President Trump not be reelected?
Because I think he has been not an effective president. He lies all the time. He began lying the day of inauguration when we got into an argument about the size of the crowd that was there. People are writing books about his favorite thing of lying, and I don't think that's in our interest. I didn't vote for him in 2006. The situation for 2020, in my mind, in my life, has gotten worse. Every American citizen has to sit down, think it through, and make a decision on their own. Don't listen to everybody out there. Don't read every newspaper. Think it through. Use your common sense and say, is this good for my country? Before you say this is good for me. We have a lot of people who are earning great wealth. And when I've talked to some of them, they say, well, gee, the economy's doing great. I'm doing great. The economy exists for all of the American people, not just you doing great or me doing better. So what we have to do now is reach out to the whole people. Watch these demonstrations, watch these protests, and rather than curse them, embrace them to see what it is we have to do to get out of the situation that we find ourselves in now. We're America. We're Americans. We can do this. We have the ability to do it, and we ought to do it. Make America not just great, but strong, and great for all Americans, not just a couple.
Retired General Colin Powell, former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, former Secretary of State, we're honored with your presence today. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Jake.